In the last example, we learned about isolated storage file, and that gives us an access to a folder like structure. We can create directories, we can create files, we can delete directories, iterate over the files in a directory. Now we have a new concept that is based on a key value pair, and it is known as isolated storage settings. Isolated storage settings is used to save an object in a binary format, and we associate a key with the object. So again we have this almost a similar kind of layout. We have two text boxes that has been named file name and file content, and we have two buttons for saving a setting and reading the setting. Now let's get into our code behind, and let's see how isolated storage settings work. So we define a variable setting is equals to isolated storage settings dot application settings. Since I said you that the isolated storage settings works on a key value pair, and we assign or associate a key with an object, so what here we are going to do is that we are going to associate a key that comes from this text box, and we are going to associate that key with a text that comes from the second text box. So let's move forward, and since it is a key and a value based thing, so we have to check whether this key actually exists in the settings or not. So we first do a validation for checking that the key that we are going to use actually exists in the settings or not. So we will do it using the contains method, and we will provide a key here, and the key comes from the first text box, and that is file name dot text. And if it is not there, then we are going to add a new key into our settings dot add. IntelliSense shows that the first argument will be a key and the second argument will be an object, and the object can be of any type, from a simpler one to a most complex object. So here we write the key, that is file name dot text, and what we want to associate with this key is that goes into the second argument of the add function, and that is file content dot text. Now if the key already exists, then we have to update that key according to the latest value that is there in the text box, that is there in the file content text box. So what here we will do is settings, and the settings object defines an indexer in it, and we will write the name of the key here, that is file name dot text is equals to file content dot text. So in this case we have taken care of both the scenarios, that if the key is not contained in the isolated storage settings, it is added, and if it is there already, then the value of that key is updated. Now we come to the read function, the click event of the read settings button, and again we copy the above line, and let's now again check for the same key. If the key is existing, then we perform a logic on it, or we simply output it using message box, else we show an error that the key does not exist and it cannot be accessed. Now if you try to access a key that is not already available, then you will get an exception. So here we write the error, the key does not exist. And here what we will do is we will put the content of the setting or the content that is associated with the key, with this key filename.txt into a string, and we need to typecast that object to a string. Setting, and again the indexer comes here. We again write filename.txt and we message box this string out to check whether the content is actually the same what we have saved. So now let's run the application and see if it's working or not. So here we define the key that is going to be associated with the object. Let's name it key1, and here we will put the string that will be associated with the key named key1. So we can write anything here and click on the button save settings, and the settings have been saved. And now let's cross verify it using the read setting, and it says the key does not exist. I am sorry, I made an error over here, and I have to remove this exclamation mark, and we have to check if the setting contains the key, then we have to show it, otherwise we have to show an error message. So we again run the application. Sorry for that mistake. Now let's write in the value of the key2 and hello world over here, and click save setting. And now we click read setting to read the value from this key, the object associated with the key that we have typecasted into the string. So it shows hello world, and we have successfully made an app that contains isolated storage settings. We can associate with the key a more complex object. Suppose that we have a class called student. We define a class student, and we define two properties in that class. The name of the student, and let's say the roll number of the student, that will be in int. So now we have defined the class student. Now what I want to show you is that till now we have only associated. So till now we have only associated a simple text with a key. Now we can associate an object with a key, and later on we can recreate that object. So this isolated storage settings give us a power to associate any object with a key that is persistent in the memory. Now I will show you that how to associate an an object with a key in isolated storage settings. We define a object student1 is equals to new student, and let's give the values to the properties. Name is equals to Raghav, and roll number is equals to 72. Now we have instantiated the R student class to make a object student1, and what I can do is here that I can remove the string that was coming from the second text box, and I can write student1. So now I have associated my student1 object with a key, and later on I can recreate that student object by typecasting that setting into a student object. Student so now we can message box any content of that student object. We can write s name and roll number, s dot roll number. Now here we again assign that as student1. Now let's check if it's working or not. So what here we are doing is creating an instance of an object and saving that object into our persistent memory with the help of isolated storage settings. Now let's build the application. Now let's name it key3, and this content does not matter because we haven't used this content in our code. So now we click save setting, and the setting has been saved. I mean that this student object has been saved into a persistent memory. Now whenever I close my app and come back again and use this key, I can get my student object back, and it can be very helpful. We can store any object in isolated storage setting. So now we click the read setting button to cross verify that we get the student details or not, and we have successfully got Raghav and roll number 72, and that was an object that we created, or that was an object that we